Anyone that's played career mode has come across transfers that make you laugh. From scripted moves like David Alaba to Juventus in FIFA 14, or teams like Athletic Club Bilbao breaking their Basque-only transfer policy, the game is far from perfect. On the other hand, I have come across transfers that actually came to fruition, which led me to the question, how realistic is career mode? The 2018-19 season was the year Ajax made a late run, reaching the Champions League semi-final only to lose to Spurs on a last-minute goal. Their top potential players have largely stayed with them in the first season, that they underperformed in the Champions League, not even getting out of the group stage. Lokomotiv Moscow are probably the biggest surprise in the Champions League, reaching the quarterfinals, but it's a matchup of legendary proportions in the Champions League final, with Real Madrid defeating Manchester City on penalties. Career mode didn't do the best job of predicting real-life Champions League performances. Liverpool won the competition in this season, and they actually dropped down to the Europa League in this save, losing to Chelsea in the quarterfinals. But the simulation did a much better job predicting the Europa League winner. It matches up Chelsea winning this competition and defeating Leverkusen in the Europa League final. To add to the realism, Kalidou Koulibaly made the transfer to Chelsea in this save. Of course, that move went on to happen a few years later, and Chelsea might be ahead of the curve when it comes to Noah Long. Doesn't have the best potential in FIFA 19, but we all know he is a wonder kid for the future. I can already anticipate some jokes in the comments. Spurs were Premier League winners in this first season. How about Burnley as well, potentially getting into European competitions in that 7th place spot? PSG continuing their dominance in Ligue 1. Biggest surprise for me is Saint-Etienne in the 5th place spot. For reference, in 2024, they're currently in France's 2nd division. The Bundesliga going pretty much as expected. Bayern were league winners. These were the days that Schalke were still competing for European spots. They truly are fallen giants, as they are candidates for relegation from the 2nd Bundesliga. Another correct prediction for Serie A: Juventus were league winners. I think we'll probably see Real Madrid and Barcelona swapping league titles a few times in this save. Barca were actually league winners this season, so career mode got the prediction wrong. Marcus Rashford has joined Bayern already in this save. A few years ago, an English striker moving to the Bundesliga wouldn't exactly be the most realistic. I wouldn't say the same thing now, with Harry Kane, of course, completing that move and dominating the league. Another long-time English youth academy talent, with Trent leaving Liverpool and joining Atleti in La Liga. And it's not exclusive to England, with current Milan captain David Calabria leaving the club and joining West Ham in the Premier League. Let's see if Season 2 can follow up an already intense first season of transfers. Right off the bat, Lyon are Champions League winners against Milan. While it may seem surprising at first when you look at actual results, Lyon made it all the way to the semi-finals, only to lose to the 2020 Champions League winner, Bayern. Valencia will claim the Europa League title with a victory against Torino on penalties. A different Spanish team claimed the real results, with Sevilla picking up their 6th Europa League title. 2020 was the year Liverpool returned as Premier League winners. Unfortunately, the simulated results didn't match that, with Manchester City claiming the Premier League title in a pretty close affair. Monaco edge out PSG for the Ligue 1 title, ending their dominance that they continue to hold in France. I'm actually pretty impressed anytime career mode gets a league prediction right. It's a bit easier for the Bundesliga, where Bayern is the highest rated squad. These were the years that Juventus were continuing their reign as Italian champions. Career mode swapped around their predictions. Real Madrid were the actual La Liga winners this season, but Barcelona won it in the simulation. Now that we fast forwarded a season, we're going to see a lot more player transfers, starting with the player that's on the thumbnail. When you look at his potential back in FIFA 19 compared to where he's at right now, Dele might be the biggest difference in terms of player overall. He has made a move to the Bundesliga, joining Dortmund, now up to an 89 overall at just 24 years old. Speaking of Dortmund, it's a shock transfer for the longtime talent Marco Reus. I couldn't picture a world where he leaves Dortmund at this stage, but he has joined Juventus at an 88 rating. Mats Hummels, on the other hand, has played predominantly for Dortmund and Bayern. He's followed Reus over to Serie A, joining Napoli. And this is the first Ajax talent that has transferred away. Frenkie de Jong, of course, joining Barcelona in real life, has made the transfer to PSG. Not an unrealistic move. Another player whose potential has dropped over the years, Houssem Aouar, was considered a wonder kid back in FIFA 19. interest from teams like Spurs, where he's actually moved to in this save, and other teams like Arsenal. It's cool to highlight players that I'm not too familiar with anymore in the career mode community. Matias Zaracho is one of the many Argentine wonder kids, and a pretty realistic transfer for him to Leverkusen, who tend to sign a lot of Argentine players. We saw it last season with Trent. We've got another big Liverpool transfer. Joe Gomez making the move to Champions League winners Lyon. Moise Kean choosing to stay in Italy, where he's transferred to Sassuolo at a 78 rating. FIFA 19 was still the early days for Douglas Luiz, but in modern times, I feel like there have been some transfer links to Manchester City, so spot on here from career mode. Closing out this list of transfers with another player whose potential has dropped considerably, Zeno van Huysden, with a interesting move to Celtic. I can't say I was familiar with his potential back in the day. One thing that we sometimes take for granted is the number of save slots in FC 24. There's only 4 in FIFA 19. I've actually simulated forward to Season 4 where Milan win the Champions League title over Atleti. In real life, this was a great year for Real Madrid, continuing their campaign in the Champions League. Spurs were Europa League winners in this save and actually went to penalty kicks, where Eintracht Frankfurt were victorious. Of course, we're going to see some consecutive league winners, and it's a correct prediction from career mode as City win the league in another close title race. 1 year earlier, and this prediction would have been spot on. You might remember in the 2020-21 season, Lille broke PSG's streak as Ligue 1 winners. Some intense scenes in the Bundesliga. Bayern finished top, but 3 teams with 72 points. Looks like it was decided by goal difference. This was the year Milan returned as Serie A winners. Juventus seemed like the dominant team in career mode though. And another correct prediction as Real Madrid returned top. Atleti instead now in the second place spot. I think tracking player transfers has been my favorite part of this video so far. We'll start off with the move that would be considered realistic in my book, Kai Havertz making the transfer to Bayern at an 89 rating. Nicolo Barella, a big player for Inter IRL, has instead decided to transfer away from Cagliari to join Barcelona. Trent's transfer back to Liverpool definitely made me laugh. Eder Militao, instead of joining Real Madrid in La Liga, has transferred to Monaco. And speaking of Madrid talents, Federico Valverde has joined Champions League winners from 2 seasons ago, Lyon. Toby Alderweireld, interesting move, transferring within the Premier League from Spurs to Newcastle. Robert Lewandowski, one of the top stars in the Bundesliga and Bayern, has followed his career path of moving to Spain, but he has joined Valencia. And speaking of Bayern, Sergio Busquets, still at a good rating of 84 and 33 years old, has joined Bayern. Dayot Upamecano, following tradition of these French center backs, moving to the Premier League as he joins Leicester City. And another Premier League transfer for a Frenchman, Jules Koundé, will make for a big addition at Crystal Palace. Ibrahima Konate, of course a real-life Liverpool player, has made his mark at Borussia Mönchengladbach. And just a few years ago, Hertha Berlin, I think, were one of the German teams on the up and up. Not the case anymore, but they have signed Boubacar Kamara. Newcastle with some very interesting moves. Sergio Ramos taking his talents to the Premier League as he joins as a veteran leader. High potential Italian talent here with Pietro Pellegrini. He will also make the transfer to Monaco. Many of you career mode fans will of course know Thiago Almada. He is absolutely crushing it in MLS right now. He's probably on his way to Europe soon. He's just made it happen sooner in this simulation, joining Chelsea. We've got one final season to review results 6 years into the save. 2 teams that are having very strong campaigns right now. Arsenal only recently getting knocked out of the Champions League, and Stuttgart, who have qualified for the competition next year. Milan were Europa League winners. They've had a couple of strong campaigns in the Champions League, and coincidentally, they are also still in the Europa League for the 23-24 season. We'll shift focus to league results. Career mode has predicted a few winners in this capacity. A shock result in the Premier League as Manchester United win the league. PSG coasting through to another Ligue 1 victory. It seems like it's going to go that way again this season. Hold up, is career mode actually realistic? Because they've just predicted Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga in the same season we're in right now. Milan were Serie A winners. Looks like Inter is going to be running away with the title this season. And over in La Liga, another typical result with Real Madrid first place in the league. Before we check on the accuracy of career mode's predictions across all seasons, I figured we'd look through player transfers one more time. Matthias de Ligt's move to Manchester United might have sparked their Premier League winning campaign. He's up to a 91 overall. Next up, we've got another former Ajax player, De Jong, with another move. He's joining Milan in Italy. Patrick Cutrone, haven't heard that name in a while, but he's joined Barcelona at an 89 overall. Same goes for Christian Kouame, had a lot of potential back in the day, and he has linked up with RB Leipzig in Germany. What could have been for Ndombele, he has also joined Barcelona at an 89 overall. And a shock English transfer with Phil Foden, moving to Everton, who have done surprisingly well in this save. He's at an 88 overall. Chelsea have signed a couple of high potential players throughout this video, and they have acquired Luka Jovic. Lautaro Martinez with another transfer that I would deem incredibly realistic. He's joined Real Madrid. Franck Kessié, following his career path to move to La Liga, joining Atleti. David Calabria has moved a couple of times throughout this video, and he's now joined Arsenal, picking up a Champions League title to close out this video. Not sure what Watford is up to signing an 87 overall player, but who remembers Arne Meyer? One player I did want to showcase staying as a hometown talent was Lionel Messi. He's retiring with Barcelona. Barcelona have added an incredible amount of talent with Heung-min Son, giving them another option at center forward and left wing. I wanted to close out the player transfers with another funny one, Sergio Aguero joining Huddersfield Town, which I would never have predicted. To round things out, we'll check on the accuracy across all seasons with the Champions League, Europa League, and the top 5 domestic leagues. Looking at some of the results and transfers that went down, I gotta give career mode credit where it's due. For the 3 seasons that we have results to check on, I've listed all the leagues and competitions that career mode guessed correctly. That 2018-2019 season prediction was on point.